Hey guys, it's Laura. I'm here doing another update for my winter camp team. I'm part of Team Snow Leopard. You can find me on Ravelry as loraclare and on Instagram as lora.clare, and that's L-O-R-A and C-L-A-R-E. Not your standard spelling these days, but... So today I have two finished objects, two works in progress. One's a sort of, I'm not decided if I'm going to continue with it, works in progress. One stash enhancement, and then I actually wanted to show you what I'm wearing as well. So we'll start with what I'm wearing. This is a circle shawl. I knit it last year, most of it in May. I think I started the very end of April. It's the Celestarium shawl. It is humongous. It takes up most of my king-size bed when I blocked it. But all of the eyelets there, you'll see, and the beads make up the night sky. And then I actually put a different border. I can't even see what I'm showing you. I put a different border on it. This actually came off another shawl pattern. I don't recall which, but I decided I didn't want the just from the night sky pattern into nothing. So I decided I'd do a little lacy border along the edge. And then I actually used a beaded bind off, so you can see each and every bind off stitch has a bead. It took quite a while to do, but I really like the effect. I actually did it on the very first shawl that I ever knit, which I'm sure I'll show you at some point. And yeah, there are two threads that I missed while I was weaving them in, so they're just knotted off right now and I need to weave them in at some point. It doesn't really bother me that there's just two hanging out there. Okay, so finish objects. You saw both of these last weekend when I recorded. Neither of them were terribly far. I don't think I got into the heels yet on the socks. I think I was probably up to about here. But socks, there is a pattern. It's the Frost Flowers lace pattern across the front, which you can't really see because the yarn is black, but it looks good in real life, I promise. The yarn that I used is from Deep Stash. It's some Three Fates eponymous yarn in color Coal Smoke. There are some lighter splotches of gray, but overall it's a pretty dark colored yarn. I didn't have any issues following my chart and figuring out where I was in the pattern, despite it being a really dark colored yarn. I used US size 1 circulars. I did the 2 at a time method that Mina does all of her socks, I guess. I'm not the biggest fan of 2 at a time socks. I made it through this whole pair. I'll probably do it again at some point in the future. It's not going to be my standard. It's still not something that I really enjoy. It feels like it takes so much longer to knit a pair of socks. And I know it doesn't, but I don't like having to do 2 rounds at the same time, back to back. One thing that I do know a lot of people don't do with the 2 at a time is a standard heel flap and gusset. I have found that I like the way that these heels fit my feet better than short row heels or afterthought heels. So it's very rare that you will see me knit a pair of socks that doesn't have a heel flap and gusset. I do a different actual heel turn thing, different at pretty much every time. I think this one is the round or French heel. I've done the V heel, the Dutch heel, all those different ones, but it doesn't really matter which one I do. I just like the way that the heel flaps fit better than short row heels. So my second finished object is a cowl. You can sort of see the pattern there. The pattern is, it's actually the same stitch pattern that is on the front of my socks. It's the Frost Flowers lace stitch pattern. But let's see who did this. Kate Gagnon Osborne wrote a pattern called Avery. It's just this pattern around and around and around for however long you want a cowl, essentially. I think that she wrote the pattern for a DK weight yarn. I used Rowan Summer Tweed. It's a cotton silk blend. I like the body that it has, though it's probably not going to be as warm as, you know, a wool cowl. But it stands up nicely, it fits well. Yeah, I like the way that it ended up. I did 2.5 repeats high on the lace pattern. So from here to here is one repeat, this is another repeat, and then there's a half repeat. I did 102 stitches around, or 3 pattern repeats. And I used a US size 7 or 4.5 millimeter needles to do that one. Let's see. So that takes care of my finished objects. I know I only have 2. It's not very exciting. Works in progress. I started another pair of socks. I'm doing them in one at a time this time. This pattern is Quercus Prinus by Jeannie Cartmel. She wrote the pattern for the Solid Socks knitting group. It's the October of 2014 Solid Socks Mystery Knit-Along pattern. It's a really ribbed pattern. I doubled the length of my ribbing because she only wanted to do 12 rounds of ribbing, which isn't a whole heck of a lot. But it does stretch quite a bit. It looks really small here on the needles and on camera, but I have tried it on as best as I can because, you know, it's just part of the leg right now. And it does stretch enough for it to fit. This yarn is some of my Yarn Box monthly sock yarn club yarn. The Seven Sisters Arts Meridian yarn. Here's the tag. In color Cripple Creek. So it is a 75-25 superwash merino nylon blend. It's 100 grams and it is 463 yards. I'd probably say it's similar in thickness to like a Cascade sock yarn. It's not a very thick sock yarn, which is fine. I like that. But it's not anywhere near as thin as the yarn that I used for my cat matching socks, my Freya socks. I'm using a US size 1, which is a 2.25 millimeter needle, and the fabric density is really nice. And then I'm not so sure if I'm going to continue with this project. I did some mitered squares. I have a lot of dogs. I don't know if it's going to make sense for me to do a mitered square blanket. Yeah, but I've got 3 squares. I'm at least going to make, I don't know, a pillow cover, something. And even then, my dogs I don't put fancy pillows on the couch because they enjoy de-stuffing things. but everyone's doing it. I have a lot of leftovers. I thought I'd try a few squares, see how I like it. I'm still not really sure if I'm convinced I like it very much, just because I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to use it ever. I'm not ever planning on not having dogs. Right now we have 3 Siberian Huskies and a pit bull, and then we have 2 cats, and you can actually see right next to me here I have rats as well. The rats don't get any yarn, so they're not going to be a problem, but they're fun. So a lot of people are using a few different, let's see, there's the Cozy Memories blanket guideline thing, and then I think there's a few others. While I was in, I think I was still in high school, I might have just started college, I went to a class at Church Mouse Yarn and Teas in, I'm blanking on where it is now. By where I grew up. It's like 45 minutes from where I grew up. Anyways, and it was a mitered square class. So we learned how to make the squares and put them together and make the decreases either line up or, you know, go in a specific pattern. And it explains how to do all of that in the book, as well as give you some different pattern ideas. So there's pencil cases and purses and scarves. I think there's even like a bolero style shrug thing. Not my favorite, but whatever. I'm just using the instructions on how to make the squares and hook them together. I got the book out to remind myself how to do it. Nothing actually came of the project that I started in class. I decided I didn't like working with the yarn. It was a mohair. It was one of the Rowan, that really thin lace mohair stuff that's really fluffy and does not rip out well. Not the best idea for a new technique. Yeah, not really great. So I'm not sure if I'm going to continue with that. I have a lot of leftover sock weight yarn from socks, sweaters, shawls, hats. It's my favorite yarn to stash. I am getting more into DK weight yarn though, but it's easier for me to spin a DK weight yarn than it is for me to spin a fingering or sock weight yarn, so I'll continue to stash those. Speaking of stash, I got this month's Yarn Box Socks Club shipment. It is Holiday Yarns Silver Sock Fingering in color Amethyst. I requested no blue just because I've been getting, everything I've gotten from them has been blue almost since I signed up. So this time they sent this, which is like a really light mauve color. I'm not convinced I like the color. Maybe if it were a bit less pastel. But it is a 420 yard skein. Let's see. 63% superwash merino, 20% silk, 15% nylon, and 2% silver. Because, you know, 63% nylon. Or, nylon. Merino. Whatever. That, yeah. It makes more sense to me to replace some of the silk with silver or something. I don't know. But it feels good. It's soft. It looks well spun, or like, you know, nice and round and plump. Should show cables and stitch definition really well. Because I have so much leftover sock yarn, and because I just got this really great neutral, I'd consider this a neutral compared to a lot of my other yarns anyways. I pulled out my Colorwork Stitches pattern book thing. It's something that I got used at a local bookstore, and I really like colorwork, so I picked it up. I may make myself something. Socks, beanie, mittens, with this as the background color and some of my leftover bits of sock yarn as the pattern colors. I haven't really decided, but I have a lot of socks, so I thought with a solid sock yarn color that I would do something different. That is all that I have for you today. I'm pretty sure I'll probably have those socks done and cast on something new by the next time I record, which I'm going to try for 2 weeks again. Yeah, if you have any opinions on this thing, please let me know. Again, you can find me on Ravelry as loraclare and on Instagram as lora.clare. Convince me whether or not to continue with this, please. I don't know. The dogs make it hard because they get on everything and their hair is all over everything. And it's not all going to be superwash, so it's not even like I can just toss it in the washing machine. Anyways, it's going to take some deliberation to see if I want to continue with that. Yeah. Have fun knitting, guys, and I will talk to you again soon.